Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show are sponsored by Oklahoma Progress Now. Oklahoma Progress Now is a 501c4 organization focused on building progressive power in Oklahoma. Their primary efforts are on developing progressive content for a 21st century audience, coalition, and capacity building across progressive organizations and causes, and working to see elected leaders who are more responsive to their constituents and the needs of the many. Areas of focus include progressive messaging and communications, coalition building and resource sharing, and focused progressive policy goals. You can check out their Twitch live streams, and they go live on Facebook at noon, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Please support this organization. It's a really great organization. It's just getting started here in Oklahoma. Thank you. Now enjoy the rest of the video. Hello, this is the Green Corn Rebellion Show. I'm Gregory Harden II, and today I'm here with State Representative Melissa Provenzano, who is the state representative from House District 79 in the Tulsa area. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate being here.
Welcome. Thank you for being on. The first question I have here is, where are you from and where did you grow up?
So I'm actually from Tulsa, born and raised. I was born at St. John Hospital, and which is like 21st in Utica. I spent most of my schooling years in Bixby, actually a little bit further south, but then now live and reside and live my life in Tulsa.
Cool. What made you want to become a teacher, then an administrator?
So I love science, in particular biology, and kids are just cool. And so marrying the two was a pretty easy fit, in particular middle school kids, because like they just can't get out of their own way. I love middle schoolers because they make me laugh. And just, seeing them get into, doing labs or, what's gross and what wiggles and what happens if I do this is just, I don't know, it was sort of living the dream for me. I always marveled at elementary school teachers though, because I couldn't do that. I'd be like, why are you crying? You need to stop crying so we can do this. But the middle schoolers just, they just sort of want to glue their head to the wall and they don't know why. And you can ask them and say, why did you do that? And they'll say, I don't know. And they really don't. It's just such a developmental, I don't know, microburst, one big step forward for kids. And so they're just a lot of fun. But then, when I kind of looked around, I saw this kind of absence of talent at the administrative level and saw a need and wanted to continue to grow. And I've been able or was able to work as a principal in Tulsa and then later in Bixby and help, like have a bigger impact because, I work with amazing teachers and perhaps they don't often get a light shined on them or the support that they need. And I knew what kind of supports we needed but weren't getting. So I wanted to fill that role and a real...
Episodes of the Green Corn Rebellion Show are brought to you by Addie's Sugar Shack, located at 6201 Northwest Expressway in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, in the parking lot of 10 Gym. Addie's Sugar Shack specializes in unique and delicious shaved ice treats and bonus hot treats on the weekends. Come by Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. through 9 p.m., Saturday from noon to 7 p.m., and Sunday noon through 5 p.m. Get your cold sugar fix today.
True talented administrator is the guide on the side for the teachers, and you just kind of look and say, what is it that you need to get better because I'm here to get that for you. And then the kids kind of filter through, and sometimes you have to deal with the discipline issues, and it's just, gosh, I'd rather step on my bottom lip than have to deal with problems, but it's just a part of it. And usually through that working through problems with kids, they get better, you get better, and you're closer. And, you have relationships established, which is the key cornerstone in any life's journey. So that was a mouthful, wasn't it?
That's cool. I'm currently going to school to become a history teacher. So
Are
yeah.
you? Where are you attending, if you don't mind my asking?
UCO.
Really awesome. So I just dropped my youngest kiddo off at USAO in Chickasha, but we looked at UCO, and so awesome. So are you? Did you start classes today, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome. I love that campus. We toured it, and I'm like, this is just awesome, and it's just right in the middle of, everything, and so it's just the right size, I think.
Yeah. Um, so what made you run to be a state representative?
So the teacher walkout happened a couple of years ago, and I think that would probably be like the icing on the cake. But I was a principal for about a decade, in one capacity or another, assistant principal, and I just got so tired of the direction of the state of education in Oklahoma, because every single year I was an administrator, I had to cut someone or something due to budget setbacks every year. And I just felt like we could do better. And if we had people in the state legislature, it could be a priority, and then the teacher walkout was just like ringing my bell, like, okay, you need to step up, because both of my kiddos, were older, and like, it's not cool to hang with mom once you get to a certain age. And so I went to my husband and I'm like, I know that this doesn't make much, but what are we doing with this life? I've got to be willing to step up. And so that's what we did. And my husband and I actually just kind of hit the ground running. And in a race, like a state representative race, it's a smaller race, and you just have to knock doors, and talk to people and build relationships. And boy, we did. And we're doing so again, because we're running for re-election now. And I couldn't do it without my husband, but man, there's a lot of sweat equity involved. And now there's a mask and hand sanitizer and social distancing. It's been a challenge, but it's been worth it. I feel like it's been worth it so far. And when it's worth it, I'll try to keep doing it.
That's good. I hope you're still able to keep doing it. So could you tell me about some of the accomplishments you've been proud of since you've been up there at the Capitol?
Yeah. So I think there was just a collective message delivered. Education matters. In 2018, and as the result of that, the last 2 years have been teacher raises, not just giant teacher raises, but most teachers are like, okay, we can do this, but what about the education budget? So this past year we stabilized the education budget, and then we didn't cut it for the first time ever, and so that was huge. But I would imagine due to COVID and the economy being the way it is, we probably won't see too much of a raise next year. Just keeping it stable is going to be our goal. And then the cost of living adjustment for all state employees, including teachers and firefighters and officers and all of those people who that are retired and have served us, haven't had a raise in 12 years in their retirement checks. The money's there. They just needed the state to say, yes, it's okay. At first I'm like, I don't even understand this. But once I kind of figured out, the mechanics of the behind the scenes, and being able to do that makes such a difference. The cost of milk and dairy has jumped up. Like, I went to the store 3 months ago, like a package of cheese is like $2, and now it's like $4. And so can you imagine 12 years of that? So it was time. So those are the things I'm the most pleased about. I was also actually able to run and get a bill passed for superintendents. We changed the requirements for school superintendents, and we didn't build in a grandfather clause for people who were in the program to become a superintendent at the time. And so I went through and built in a grandfather clause, so to speak, because much like we have a coming teacher retirement wave, we are going to be hurting for principals. We're going to be hurting for superintendents, because a lot of people that got that raise back in 2018 decided, okay, I'm going to hold on for 3 more years, because retirement's based off of your 3 highest years of salary, and that's usually the last 3 years you work. And so they're there now, and gosh, 20%, I think I read 20% of our teaching force could retire today. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Now add principals and superintendents to that, we have an issue. So I was pleased to be able to build in that cushion, while we work on recruiting quality teachers and superintendents and principals.
All right. So what are some things you'd like to see get passed or be addressed in the future?
Oh gosh, the list is long. I think the efforts to refuel the teacher pipeline with quality teachers like yourself someday is one of the most critical things that we're going to need to do. I mean, if you're a history teacher, those who do not learn from history are destined to repeat it. Bless the emergency certified teacher. I'll say that number one. However, we've got to have teachers that go through the university process for that art and such, so they're ready on day one. Every teacher feels uneasy on day one because they've never been in a classroom, but there's nothing that can replace that college training that you're getting right now. And so, folks like you are who we want in the classrooms, and getting more people like that interested in those programs is absolutely critical. I also am very much interested in the Student Borrower Bill of Rights. I actually ran a bill for student loans. And, so many people borrow a lot of money to pay for college and then have trouble paying it back their whole life, and they'll draw on your Social Security if it's not paid off by then, and people pay and pay and pay. They don't see their balances go down. And why is that? Well, the protections for student loans have been stripped away over time at the federal level, and that's usually where we managed those protections. And so we've got to build them in at the state level, much like mortgages. We have loads of state level protections, and so it's time for us to step up because people aren't asking for a handout; they're asking for fairness. And so one of those, and then we're also doing an interim study here in a couple of months on eviction rates, because in the Tulsa area, we're 11th in the nation for evicting people from their homes. And in my district in particular, we have a very high eviction rate. And then so add COVID to that. And like last month, a private benefactor came in and paid the rent for everybody that was in the entire city of Tulsa. She can't do that every month. That was a beautiful gift. But COVID is persisting. And so we're struggling to get people back to work. So we're going to look and do a deep dive into that and see if there's anything we can do to help. So that was a mouthful.
So how do you feel about the passage of State Question 802?
I was pleased to see it pass. For my constituents, they would ask me how I felt, and I would tell them, but I tried to just kind of present the information and then you decide. But everyone deserves access to healthcare, preventative healthcare. And if you get the preventative healthcare, the likelihood that you use the ER as your primary source of access is far, far less. And we all know that the emergency room costs 3 to 5 times as much as your regular routine doctor's checkup. And if things get caught before they get to an emergency state, it's actually going to cost us a lot fewer dollars. And so it's truly a cost-saving measure in my estimation. And I was surprised that the win was as narrow as it was, but I credit that to like an all-out assault on the other side to discredit the math of how to pay for it. But the fascinating thing is, for every $9 the federal government gives us, we have to give them $1. So if you had a business deal where that was the deal, would you not do that? Of course you would. And the interesting thing is there are so many programs it's going to support. Well, the state has been fully funding, the state correctional facility medical health, the mental health association, the mental health components of those things have been funded at 100% by the state. Well, now they're going to be 90% funded by the federal government. So we're going to have that money available that we would have had to spend to pay for our $1 to $9 match. And a lot of people don't quite make that connection, so it'll be very easy to facilitate the payment for.
All right. And how do you feel about the response to the coronavirus that the governor's had and the mayor of Tulsa has had?
Oh my goodness, loaded question. When I saw that one, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Um, to be honest, I feel like the lack of decisive action at the state level has led to a prolonged event. You know, if I'm speaking as a biology teacher, the mismanagement of the CARES Act funding, where we're blowing $2 million on the hydrochloroquine. You know, I think I get $5 for pronouncing that correctly. The poor hiring practices. The first gentleman that was hired for the Oklahoma State Department of Health didn't even have a medical degree. It seems like, and it was a requirement. He was an interim, so he couldn't stay. And I feel like the lack of leadership was indecisive, and then the lack of a clear message on mask wearing. I get personal liberty, and I had individual liberty drummed into me, as a child. But my rights end where yours began. And if I could wear a mask to keep you from getting sick, then that's the responsible thing to do as a citizen. And I feel like there's been, in general, a lack of leadership sending that message, because it's always, well, yes, you should if you want to, but the message should be your fellow citizen deserves, you to act as a responsible citizen. So, and I think we're suffering from the effects of that now. Even the national leaders say we're still in the first wave, and I think that should send us, considering we could have had this thing managed much sooner than we have. It's telling.
Um, and what about the mayor of Tulsa? How has he handled it compared to the governor?
I think at first he was a rock star, and definitely took the things, and made them happen that needed to happen quickly, to shut down the city, more or less. Everybody stayed home. We saw cases start to decline. I was disappointed when the governor said we're reopening the state, and both cities, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, felt they had to comply because every city around them was just throwing the doors wide open. I wish we would have been a little bit more decisive there. I wish we would have limited large gatherings, and because I felt like that contributed to the increased growth that we saw. And any graph you look at tells you that. And so I think that it's hard to do the tough things sometimes, but sometimes that has to be done.
All right. And last question I have here is, what kind of music do you listen to?
Okay, I saw this one. I'm like, how does somebody answer that? Well, I'll tell you, all-time favorite, because there's like a scope, a range. All-time favorite, Dave Matthews Band, for sure. Mumford and Sons is running a close second, but they're, and then I'm a child of the 80s. And so generally any 80s song I'm good with. But, right now, I'm really into the Alabama Shakes. And then the songs, there's no official, the soundtrack from the Umbrella Academy is different than the songs they play. Like, there's a musical soundtrack, but then the songs that they play during the episodes are all incredible. So I'm slowly downloading those and listening to them right now because I'm into the show.
All right. That's interesting. Well, thank you for coming on. Where can we find you on social media, and what is your campaign website?
So it's all the same, Proven for Oklahoma. You can do, and it's the number 4 or the word 4. So no matter how you get to it, but Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the website are all Proven for Oklahoma. And if you plug it in, you should be able to find me easily. And then there's also my Oklahoma State, or my Oklahoma House profile on the House of Representatives website if you'd like to reach out in a more official capacity. So reach out anytime. I actually, and it's so funny, at the state level, people are stunned when they're like, oh, it's really you? And I just expected to talk to somebody else. Yeah, it's really me. Call me. So anyway.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Good luck with your studies.
Thanks.